As an out gay man, I know the struggles that the queer community have with mental health. Thanks to programmes like Growing Up Gay, the rest of society is starting to cotton on to the facts. A recent report from Stonewall shows that LGBT plus people are more than twice as likely to suffer from mental health problems than the rest of society. While I don't find this particularly shocking, it is worrying. I wanted to apply these facts to Scotland and consider what is being done in the capital to combat mental illness in our community. With marriage equality secured and much of the UK under the impression that the fight is over, what is the next step? I'm starting off by speaking to my oldest friend to discuss what we never really had the chance to. So I'm about to go and see my friend Emily, who's the first person that I came out to. Who's the first person that came out to me as well, actually, just to get her opinions on what's going on just now. We spent a lot of time together in our teen years, and most people probably would have thought that we were together if I wasn't so inexplicably camp. We spent our time talking about basically every single thing you could think of, so I think it was really strange that we never really talked about mental health. So, do you remember when we were walking down the street and when I came out to you? Do you remember what you said?
You were like, "Oh, I'm gay," and I was like, "Good one." Well, I was incredibly gullible, and you had been adamant that you were straight, so I was like, "Leah's straight," which clearly wasn't true, and everybody else knew it wasn't true, but I was like, Lee is straight because he says he is straight.
So that was me. I remember your coming out fondly.
I remember it not so fondly.
If you were wondering, Emily came out to the rest of our friends incredibly drunk, standing on someone else's dining room table. After discussing our lovely coming out stories, I wanted to know Emily's thoughts behind the increasing mental health problems in the queer community.
With the tolerance thing, being tolerated isn't good for you. Like, being just tolerated. I think when everybody else gets to have their sexuality celebrated almost.
So, what does she think the next steps to overcoming this hurdle are?
I think it needs to be more normalised. So like the media, you know, you have like gay couples and stuff on TV shows, but they're the token gay, you know, like, or the sort of Sex and the City attitude of having like a gay best friend sort of thing.
17 years after we first met, that's us just discussing mental health now. It's interesting that even as close as we are, it's not just a subject that comes up naturally. So that was interesting actually. We've never really talked about that kind of stuff before. Whenever we meet up, it's always just jokes and laughs and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting to hear her opinions and like, I don't know, we never really take that kind of stuff that seriously, but obviously I think that's part of the problem, is that even with your queer friends, you're not even talking about mental health. So yeah, maybe we should have conversations like that more often. From talking to one of my best friends of quite a long time, I feel a little weight lifted from simple conversation of mental health. Perhaps a more open conversation about mental health can be the catalyst to moving forward with the struggle. That next evening, I decided to take some advice that Emily had given me. Whilst I've always been a bit sceptical of the benefits of yoga, she insisted that it really was helping her. Queer yoga teacher Amy Hughes believes in the health benefits of yoga so much that her LGBT plus classes are free, running every Saturday at Santosa Yoga Studio. Initially aimed at trans individuals, the class's popularity pushed Amy to extend it to the wider queer community. So, you started up your queer yoga class. What made you set it up?
Well, there were a variety of reasons. Whilst more people are practicing, there's not necessarily the diversity of people that you meet in society represented in a lot of mainstream yoga studios. So whilst some queer folk are accessing classes, for example, a lot of more genderqueer folk aren't necessarily accessing classes in the same way, but also classes are mainly white, they're mainly middle class. I suppose we've really tried to focus it less on, it certainly wasn't promoted as a strength and flexibility class. So in the write-up, we talked a lot about, you know, being able to find mental clarity, calm and quiet, finding a loving relationship with yourself, and all of these things that I suppose over my years of practicing and teaching, those are the most radical transformations I've seen.
When Amy left to teach her class, I got a chance to speak to her partner, Tom. He began transitioning 5 years ago and found yoga to be incredibly helpful.
It can be quite an anxiety-provoking time, really, you know, going through a transition, just in terms of putting different hormones into your body, or even social anxieties, or having to tell family, or whatever it is. And as Amy was saying, the health benefits around breathing, calming the stress response down is fantastic, you know.
Amy told me that a lot of people attending her class had similar experiences to Tom.
I think where people are going through such a massive, you know, maybe conflict with the body that they've been assigned at birth, and that is something they've carried with them for such a long time, there's so much more potency and power then to go through this radical shift that I think yoga really can bring us into a state of loving kind of something deeper than just the outer form of the physical body, I suppose.
From speaking to Tom, it's clear how this really can benefit the LGBT plus community, especially trans people. The next morning, having already signed up for queer yoga sessions, I made my way down to Leith to meet with Scott Cuthbertson from the Equality Network. Scott has played a massive role in promoting LGBT rights across Scotland, recently publishing the Scottish Hate Crime Report. He also helped set up the Further Out project, which included pop-up counselling booths for queer people across Scotland. I wanted to get his opinions on what the next steps were in tackling queer mental health.
Well, I mean, there's lots of things we could do. I think it starts with visibility. We saw many years in Scotland that when more people are able to be themselves, when they're able to come out in the local communities, that means that more people are able to accept them. So if you don't know a person who's gay or transgender, then you don't really understand what their lives are like, and you don't understand their experiences and the experiences that you share. So when people are better able to be themselves and to be out to their family, their friends and their communities, that brings an increased level of awareness about LGBTI issues, but also acceptance of LGBTI issues.
Scott also attributes a lot of mental health issues in the queer community to social isolation.
The levels of social isolation we saw in that report were quite high, and I wouldn't say it would be a surprise to us, but I think it was the first time we had a real picture of what was going on in terms of. We'd just come out of the Equal Marriage campaign. There was a lot of euphoria around about what we had achieved in Scotland and how far we had progressed in terms of LGBT equality. And so it was a good way of recentering the debate on what still needed to be done.
Scott is right. We have made huge steps for the queer community. I think we can all agree, though, that there's more to do. In terms of our mental health, I think the first step is communication. More discussion of these things between our friends, and like Emily, Amy and Scott all told me, more visibility. We need to get rid of the stigma and be more willing to open ourselves up to groups like Amy's LGBT yoga class. The one thing that I've taken from all this is the lack of openness that we all have when it comes to our mental health. If this changes, we will start to see a better future for the queer community.